Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Explaining Brazil podcast by the Brazilian Report. This is our live podcast ever, so please don't mind if we stutter a little bit. My name is Gustavo Ribeiro. I'm editor-in-chief of the Brazilian Report. With me tonight is Euan Marcelo Soares, and Diogo Rodriguez. Today, Brazilians went to the polls in the first round of voting with 95% of ballots counted. We can call it far-right populist Jair Bolsonaro finished the first round in first with 46% of votes, followed by Workers' Party, Fernando Haddad 28%, and Ciro Gomes 12%. Diogo, pundits were expecting a wave of support for Ciro Gomes, especially because in these past few days he got more mentions on social media than anybody else, and we know that social media played a big role in this year's election. What happened? It didn't materialize.
Well, actually, he was second to Jair Bolsonaro. He wasn't the first one more mentioned, but he was the second one, and the far third place was Fernando Haddad. So there was an impression that Ciro would manage to have more votes in this election because he grew a little bit in the two last polls yesterday that were published before the election. He grew 2 points, reaching 15% and 13% in both of them. So, well, I guess he didn't reach his full potential, what he thought he was his full potential, because he wasn't, Ciro wasn't really identified with, as a leftist candidate or either as a right-wing candidate. He was trying to be in the middle, in a gray area, and the numbers show that he didn't succeed in that. He got a significant part of the votes so far, but not enough to fall in either of the two, either categories that managed to go to the second round.
Yeah, it's actually the third straight election that a third wave presents itself and then gets crushed by the left and the right wing. And at one point today, when the first results came out, we thought that maybe the election would be over today, right?
Yeah, well, so we had yesterday the evolving datafolio polls showed Jair Bolsonaro polling around 40%. And I think a lot of pundits as well kind of expected to see what we saw today, just like this increasing wave of support would continue to grow, and he would get close to maybe winning in the first round, if not actually winning in the first round. He himself was very confident. When he went to vote this morning in Rio, he said that he would be on the beach by October 28th, which is when the second vote was going to happen. And yeah, as soon as we got those early exit polls coming through for Congress, governor, all that sort of thing, we started to see some sort of wave towards pro-Bolsonaro candidates, which made us think that maybe for the national thing we might see Bolsonaro reaching his first round victory, but that didn't actually happen. The ninth polls came out, he was at 45% of the votes, and
at one point he was at 49, right?
Oh yeah. No, I mean like the exit polls. So the exit polls showed him 45. When they opened the partial results, it was like 50% of the ballots counted. He opened at 49%, so everyone was thinking, oh, maybe there's a first round win there, but in the end, it's sat at 46%. So the exit polls were basically spot on.
Marcelo, you're the data guy. In the last few elections, we have seen a very clear split. The center and the south of Brazil voting to the right, and the north and the northeast voting to the left. Did we see the same split this time around?
It's more pronounced this year. If you look at the aggregate results, you see red only on the northeastern part, North Pará, and all the rest blue. But what I like to say about it is, I didn't see the city numbers for this year, but usually what's blue, it's a mishmash of blue, light blue, and a bit pink, and so on. It's I don't know how the map is this year. I will try to draw it for us. But it sounds
more of the polarization, it's increasing.
Where did Bolsonaro fare better?
Santa Catarina. It's he got 2 of every 3 votes.
And where did he fare the worst?
That's Piauí. Piauí is an interesting election. It's the place that had more polls this year. It was no state had as many polls as Piauí. We did a story about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually signals a very contested election.
And they have a sitting governor for the Workers' Party, so that might have played a role, right?
Sure. Most of those polls are unreliable, but they showed Lula when Lula was the independent candidate as winning on the first round there.
And so we can say that these results are surprising. For people that follow us, we have been talking about Bolsonaro, right, for a lot of time. And Diogo, what makes Bolsonaro such an appealing candidate? Because he has been known for misogynistic remarks, racist remarks. His VP nominee has talked about cutting labor rights. A lot of stuff that have crushed other candidacies in the past. It's like Bolsonaro's candidacy has made every single possible mistake out there to be made. And he still was the best voted guy. Why?
Well, I think this is going to be studied for years. Something that we don't know exactly why he managed to be such a uncontestable first place, even though he has been manifesting himself as a misogynistic candidate and everything that you listed. I think that he has managed to position himself as someone that is not from the old politics, even though he is from the old politics. He's been in politics for almost 30 years, but he talks in a different way. He's not technical at all. He says, he admits that he doesn't know some things and somebody else will take care of it. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that he is the first, he reached the first place in our election because he's a candidate that speaks to the people like Lula did, but he's even simpler than Lula. He's even more direct and vulgar. Yes, and then some researchers have interviewed Bolsonaro electors and people who would vote for him. And one of the things they say is that he exaggerates. He says that he doesn't like gays, but he likes gays. He likes women. He's just speaks his mind whenever he wants, and he's not that bad. So I guess that isn't something mean. Exactly. Yeah, he doesn't really mean it. He just being hot-headed, things like that. So, but that's a question we're going to have to ask our political scientists from now on because it's unheard of. He didn't have much TV time. Not at all. He had seconds of TV time. He didn't spend a lot of money in his campaign. He didn't have, a strong presence in the media, favorable presence, and he still managed to be the first.
And it also has to do, from my perspective, with what the left wing did. You cannot explain Bolsonaro's performance without talking about the left wing shortcomings. In your opinion, what were the main mistakes besides being split between Ciro Gomes and Fernando Haddad?
Well, yeah, as you were saying about Bolsonaro, is that this is something that we're going to have to study for quite a while. The real reasons behind this, we're only really going to have a better idea of it maybe a couple of years down the line. But I think one of the major criticisms you could say of the Workers' Party candidacy was the insistence of making Lula the main candidate and pushing that for so long. And I think to get the change, the inevitable change that was going to happen because he was going to be barred by the Electoral Courts, everyone really knew that was going to happen. And they tried to delay that change as late as they possibly could to try and make a quick transfer of votes onto Fernando Haddad. And, to a certain extent, but it also meant that Fernando Haddad now arrives with second round run-up to prepare for it, and he's only really had 23 days of campaigning. Still, people don't really know him that well.
Don't know his name.
Yeah, some of them don't know his name. So there's that kind of... It's one of those tactics that if it comes off, and it might still come off. I mean, Haddad could definitely still be the president in the second round. If it comes off, we might be calling it a masterstroke, you know. That, they waited so long and they managed to transfer the votes, and now he's got space to grow still for the second round. But at this point, it looks like that wasn't maybe the best decision for the Workers' Party.
And it also seems like Lulism has its limits without Lula. Because we cannot compare 2018. Marcelo, you have been covering Brazilian elections for quite a while. It's different because in 2010 and 14 he was backing Dilma Rousseff, but he was there. He was campaigning with her. Now he's in jail. He has appeared on TV ads, but in a very short rate.
In 2014, we were mostly innocent country. You know, we didn't know, we didn't have 4 years of Lava Jato as we have now. We didn't have, we hadn't seen as many politicians arrested as we have now. It's impossible to compare. It's still amazing that he can transfer as many votes as he can from jail in 15 days and so on. But with those votes, he also transferred a lot of rejection. And that's something that worries me a lot. We have two candidates.
40% say they would never vote for that.
Exactly. And as many said, they will never vote for Bolsonaro. So now we have two champions of rejection running against each other on the ballot. And what I worry about the day after, about October 29. I don't know what will happen. You see that there's a strong rejection for both. There's all the structure of the rejection, of how the rejection can happen, is already formed. If one wins, one kind of rejection will be on the streets.
What do you mean? Which kind of rejection?
Let's say if Bolsonaro wins, the streets will be taken by those who are against all the kinds of prejudice he manifests. If Haddad wins, the streets and maybe roads will be taken by the rejection to what PT, to what Workers' Party represents in the popular imagination.
And just one question, because you mentioned the rejection, we got one question from Periscope. Is there a room for Haddad to make a push and win against Bolsonaro? Because Bolsonaro almost got to 50%. So in your opinion, Diogo, is there room for...
Well, it seems very unlikely. I mean, judging from what we saw in this first round, and the votes that the center-left, as we can call it that, including Ciro Gomes, got, it's going to be very hard for Haddad to gain, to gain votes among those who are still undecided and the people who voted on their votes or voted blank. I think that's something that it's going to be very hard for him to pull off, because it doesn't seem scenario is not very favorable to him, even though Bolsonaro has a lot of rejection, but there's also the anti-Workers' Party feeling in Brazil, which has been very strong. You know, like Marcelo said, since Lava Jato started, that has been growing and hasn't stopped growing yet. So I think that's one of the things that explains what somebody asked me. I think that's one of the things that we cannot forget about Lava Jato, car wash operation. And I think that's one of the main barriers Haddad is going to face.
I think what we really need to keep in mind is that from now until the second round is 3 weeks, which in Brazil and the Brazilian elections is a lifetime in terms of like what can change.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and
especially this time around.
Yeah, and especially now that the party they know their opponent. They know their opponent now. They don't have to worry about Ciro Gomes. They don't have to worry about anyone else.
And it was the opponent they wanted from the get-go.
Yeah, and they haven't really targeted him yet. That's only started recently. The Workers' Party turning on Bolsonaro, and now they will turn on Bolsonaro with all of the strength that they have. It's, remains to be seen whether they have the kind of the campaign machine that they have shown in 2014 and previous elections. But yeah, I think really it's still up in the air.
Yes.
In my opinion, there's such a long time to go.
Of course.
And Marcelo, Euan mentioned that now the Workers' Party is turning their guns towards Bolsonaro. They have started. They have started sharing on social media a clip of comparing Bolsonaro to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
And that has had already some effect, right? I mean, if you have data from Google searches related to Jair Bolsonaro. What are people looking when they are looking for Bolsonaro?
They are trying to find out what he means. But one of the 10 top searches about him is what is fascism and what is communism also. The left charges Bolsonaro with fascism, which is something people don't really know what it is. People still think in Brazil, for the battlement of the German embassy, that Nazism was a left-wing movement.
Yeah, because it's called National Socialism.
Yeah, sure. And social media also socialist, completely communist. People. One thing that worries me about Petit going that way, about Workers' Party going that way, is how much are they preaching to the converted? And how much are they trying to reach out for those who haven't made up their mind about whether to vote for him or against him, or whether to not vote and let the others decide for them.
No, especially because to win a second vote, you have to get to the other guy's voter base.
Exactly.
And if you're saying you're supporting a Nazi guy, I mean, for me, it sounds like you're burning every bridge there is out there to get guys who have voted for Bolsonaro, because
But he's not really wrong, right? He's not completely wrong.
what do you mean?
It's got all the no, I mean in what they are trying to frame him as.
Yeah, sure, he has
all the trappings.
But saying that he has fascist-like proposals doesn't mean that every single guy who is voting for him is a fascist.
Sure.
When the Workers' Party goes so hard and so aggressively by saying that he's like Adolf Hitler, I don't see how
Burning bridges like that is the best strategy, but I think that PT's Workers' Party is thinking about that, and he's trying to target those people who are more moderate, or not so radical, such as the hardcore fans that Bolsonaro has.
I don't know if that's the best point of attack. I think that the incompetence, the proud incompetence that Bolsonaro shows, can be a better point of attack. But,
And we already know where Bolsonaro is striking at that, right? Because in 2012, that was running for mayor of São Paulo. And Bolsonaro put on his office at the lower house, he's the gay kid candidate. Can you recall, people who are watching this, what was this gay kid?
Yeah, so it was essentially this kind of set of materials that were being distributed in schools to kind of fight homophobia, essentially, for children of young ages. And this was seen by a section on the right as being, trying to indoctrinate these kids and trying to turn all the kids gay, which is a strange tactic, to say the least. And yeah, so essentially since then, Haddad has been seen by these same sectors on the right as being the father of the
yeah, the
degree
Minister
hit,
of
who was the
Education.
Minister of Education at the time, yeah. And we've seen that pop up again in this campaign. People have obviously not forgotten about that. And
it will come back.
Yeah, it will come back.
Because it sticks. I mean, it gets results. We have a very conservative society. We have majority of society who is against abortions, who is against gay marriage, who is against the decriminalization of drugs. So yeah, it's
just to go back quickly to where we were talking about the second round about Haddad and like what his kind of growth could be. So we've got basically what we've expected. So Ciro Gomez has given an interview where he's saying that let me just get this up quickly. Yeah, he's saying that his history in politics has always been about defending democracy against fascism, and he mentioned the hashtag #EliNo, as in like not him, no doubts, not him. So that's showing that Ciro Gomez will obviously be campaigning for Fernando Haddad. Apparently Fernando Haddad has also received phone calls from Ciro Gomez, Guilherme Boulos from the left-wing Sol, yeah, and former Environment Minister Marina Silva, who didn't do terribly well in the polls, but
was even worse today than she was polling. Wow. It's really for that, right?
Yeah, quite incredible. So she ended up on 1%. Can we confirm that? 1% of votes, which for someone who has been often lauded as well in the international press as being this kind of potential third way, you know, like this constant hope of the Brazilian Amazon.
But then 4 years ago, at one point she was the favorite to be Dilma Rousseff.
Yeah, it's just that everyone thinks that when we're so far away from the election, and then you know when we get close to the election, you know, we realize.
But what amazed me in this election is that in 2010 I thought that polarization was at its worst. In 2014 I thought it was at its worst. I was innocent. Yeah. I was so naive. Yeah. And that was an environment where a third force, like a free herder like Marina Silva, can get 20% of the vote. Yeah. Now with this kind of polarization, most of the people who will vote for her may try to avoid what they see as the bigger evil. Mm.
Yeah. And the biggest overachiever of this campaign is Cabo da Silva, the joke candidate of the guy who has basically no proposal, just showing the Bible and saying that love and Jesus would cure all problems in Brazil.
But he didn't overperform at all. Like he told us all that he was going to get 51%.
I think his achievement shows one of those two statements is right. Either God doesn't exist, or Daciolo is a proud history of success of the anti-manicomio movement.
Yeah. And just changing from the presidential election, because it was not the only election we had today, we also had elections for governors in the 27 states. 2/3 of the Senate were elected today as well, and the lower house was also renewed. We had some pretty shocking results in the gubernatorial races, for instance. We can still not call, with 98% of ballots counted already, we still cannot count who will face former mayor of São Paulo, João Dória, in the second round. João Dória has now 31, almost 32% of votes, but then the difference between a sitting governor, Márcio França, and Paulo Scaff, who is a sort of union leader for business owners, the difference between them is 70,000 votes, which for a state like São Paulo, with 20% of the Brazilian electorate is nothing. What happened, Joe, here?
Well, you always ask me the tough questions. Well, I don't know. I mean, Márcio França, it didn't seem like he had a chance up until last week. It seemed like João Dória and Paulo Scapi were the ones who were going to go to the second round. And then from all of a sudden, Marcelo França just became competitive and probably will go to the second round. I mean, we don't see many changes here. I mean, I guess Paulo Scapi would be the different candidate, if you can call it that, although he's from the Democratic Movement of Brazil, which is the same party that President Temer is in.
And it's the third time he runs for office.
Exactly. And he supports Jair Bolsonaro as well as Doria does. And I mean, we're seeing again the Social Democratic Party being the main party in state elections. Like it's been like that for 24 years, I guess, since 1994. They've won elections here, and he's running against the former vice governor of São Paulo. He was, Geraldo Alckmin's vice governor. Geraldo Alckmin is also from the Social Democratic Party, so it's nothing really new here. I mean, what's surprising is that Marcelo França is beating Paulo Scapi by a few votes and might make it to the second round.
And one thing that is interesting is that Marcelo França, his candidacy at one point almost was crushed by a faux pas regarding a wild hog. So there has been a wild hog infestation in the countryside of São Paulo, and landowners were shooting them down. And Marcelo França approved a bill to forbid shooting down wild hogs. And at that point, his polling numbers went down, and he was at one point counted off of the race.
Yeah, there's something interesting here. In the middle of the election, towards the last 2 weeks, Scapi made himself more likely from Doria. When he saw Doria was supporting Bolsonaro, that was giving fruits to him, he decided to openly support Bolsonaro also. Maybe that's what moved people in the last week to try to do something different. Well, two candidates so alike. Marcelo França had an interesting way to describe Doria and Scapi, like milionário José Rico.
It's a countryside duo,
Yeah.
But you mentioned something interesting, which is a lot of guys got their numbers way up, after they supported Jair Bolsonaro. That happened in Minas Gerais, when we had a true outsider that was considered irrelevant in the race until a few days ago.
Yeah.
And he ended up with more than 40% of the votes for governor.
44, I think it was.
44, yeah.
Just by declaring support for Jair Bolsonaro.
Exactly. His only proposal was saying that he would back Jair Bolsonaro. And the same thing happened in Rio.
Yep.
With a judge, an extreme right judge, who was also being counted off of the race. 5 days ago, this guy wasn't even among the top 3, and he ended up way up, and is the favorite to win.
But yeah, this was what we were talking about earlier, is in like that early belief or the idea that maybe the Bolsonaro might actually win in the first round, because when those exit polls came in, having Witzel in first place in Rio, which came out of nowhere, completely came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and
on the first Datafolha poll, he had 1%.
1%. So from 1% to finish at 41, 42%.
Yes.
It's incredible.
And they have a strong showing in the state legislatives and the federal. In Rio, the Bolsonaro's party got the 2 most voted state legislators and 4 of the 5 most voted. That's
and his son was also the best voted candidate for federal lawmaker in the history of Brazilian democracy.
in São Paulo.
In São Paulo.
There was that's something interesting, because the social media like WhatsApp made the campaign national, the state campaign national. There was a fun thing I saw on Twitter today, that a guy was complaining to the electoral court that he intended to vote for Bolsonaro's son, and he typed his number, and someone else's face and name showed up. And it said, this his urnas, his ballots.
This is a fraud.
It's a fraud. But then he was in Rio and not in São Paulo where the guy was running.
Yeah. Incredible. Oh, and also just going off Eduardo Bolsonaro, Janaína Pascoal, who was intended to be Bolsonaro's vice president, but she turned that down. So when Eduardo Bolsonaro is the best voted federal deputy of all time, Janaína Pascoal has just become the best voted state deputy of all time.
Yeah, and after her in the state comes Mamãe Falei.
Oh wow, yeah.
Which is the guy who boycotted the queer museum in Rio do Sul.
And
He's a YouTuber, right?
YouTuber, yeah. Then comes Carlos Gianazzi, a Sol guy, a socialist guy. And Coronel Telhada, which is a guy who's from the police that kills. And threatened to kill a friend of mine.
I think Mamãe Falei, him being so high, we can probably put that down to Ciro Gomes slapping him on the face quite a while ago. If it wasn't for that, I don't think he would be this popular.
Yeah. But São Paulo has an interesting thing because São Paulo has elected literally a clown, Tiririca, a prince, like a former prince of the Brazilian imperial family, and has turned Bolsonaro's kid into the best voted person in the history of Brazilian democracy for congressman.
Yeah, then people say that Northeasterns are the ones that
Don't know
how to vote.
Yeah. In the Senate, Major Olímpio,
Oh yeah, that's important.
hardliner. And then Mara Gabriel in second.
I remember writing a story in 2014, right after the election, saying that Brazil had never had a more conservative Congress after 1964, when the military took power through a coup d'etat. And now we can say that we have gone further to the right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if Bolsonaro wins, he might have more than 2/3 of the House, because landowners have declared support for him, gun lobbyists as well, and evangelicals, which are pretty strong in Brazil's Congress.
Yeah.
So everything that he intends to do in terms of cutting down labor rights, in terms of changing gun ownership laws, he might have the vote if he ends up winning the presidency, which is worrisome regardless of the outcome of the presidential elections, because if Bolsonaro wins, he will have almost carte blanche to do whatever he wants. If Haddad wins, we will have a president that is going to end up being powerless, and who...
Much like Dilma Rousseff.
Exactly, but even worse. Dilma Rousseff also, she kind of caused a lot of her own problems.
Yeah, she brought that on herself, but I mean, it's going to be the same scenario.
Yeah, but worse.
Yeah.
It's going to be Dilma.
There's one thing also, Bolsonaro's party was the social liberal party. Social, that's communist. But anyway, that party was irrelevant until he got in. He was saying he was about to take 20 congressmen to move to that party. He didn't get that many. Now they are electing a lot of new congressmen for the federal Congress. But something happened when Collor won in '89. His party was irrelevant. Also PRN.
Party of the National Renewal.
National Renewal. Yeah. His party didn't exist before the middle of the campaign in '89. Then he was elected, and then his party became the biggest one in the House, because many congressmen from conservative parties moved to his party, migrated to his party. That effect can also happen when the House takes office.
Well, the Social Liberal Party apparently has already elected 51 federal deputies and is now the second largest party in the lower house of Congress. Which is
10% of the House.
Yeah, 10%. It's quite incredible. And also Bolsonaro has been speaking, he's given an interview on social media, sitting beside his economic minister, Paulo Guedes, and he's already bringing the result into question, criticising the ballot boxes and saying that if the voting system was had any integrity, we would know the new name of the president. We would know the name of the new president of Brazil today. So yeah, he's once again he's
yeah. And his son was asking people to commit an electoral crime, which is to take photos of them or recording videos of them voting and publishing on social media to prove that the real votes will be much higher than what the polls would say, which is a crime.
And sometimes there are two crimes. The guys went out of home with a gun and voted using the barrel of the gun.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a video that the guy uses the gun to push all the buttons, which, yeah, like you said, you cannot go outside of your house with a gun on election day, and you cannot...
Not only on election day, right?
No, if he has
the gun permits to use it at home.
Oh, okay.
Maybe inside your car, but not out on the streets.
Yeah. And in terms of the Senate, we have a few surprises, right? Because Romero Jucá, who has been one of Michel Temer's biggest allies and a long-time leader of the government in the House, is going to be out. When I used to cover Congress in Brazil, we used to say that there are two certainties in life, three: death, taxes, and that Romero Jucá will be the leader of the government. And,
well, it's not completely confirmed. He is 900 votes away from winning back his seat in Senate, but there aren't many votes left to be counted, so it's looking quite difficult.
Yeah, and while like 70,000 votes in São Paulo is a small number, 900 votes in Roraima, which is the least populated state in Brazil,
exactly.
It's hard to get.
There really aren't many left for him to get, and yeah, it looks like he's going to miss out on the Senate.
Going back to the presidential race, what are the moves we can expect? A lot of the guys who have been elected today, they are declaring support to Jair Bolsonaro. What can we expect?
Well, yeah, I think that's basically what we can expect. Bolsonaro, we've seen how popular he is, how much of an electoral draw he is from just the examples in Minas and Rio. Basically, just declare your support for Bolsonaro and your polling numbers jump by 30%. So I imagine we're going to see that repeated across the country, like throughout the second rounds that we have for Congress and for government, not for Congress, the second rounds we have for governor. Yeah, that's basically what we're going to see, I think.
And history is on Bolsonaro's side, because nobody who has gone to the second round after winning the first round has lost.
I think the statistical base of that is too little. It's we are still we don't have, how many second rounds do we have?
89, 2002, 6, 10, 45.
So it's not a very...
You're the data guy.
You can't make statistical predictions based on only 5 cases. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Do you think the Workers' Party will be able to draw Bolsonaro's rejection rate even more?
That's going to be their bet. I mean, I think that they're going to try to. They're trying to. They're not showing everything that they will do. They're saying that they don't know yet what they're going to do. They're going to make the country grow again, make Brazil great again. But they're not saying what their strategies will be. And I think the Workers' Party will bet on that. I mean, the Workers' Party, even though it has high rejection, has a track record of making the economy of Brazil prosperous. So they're going to bring that expertise to light to show people that they can do it again, and they're going to try to do that. and show that Bolsonaro is incompetent, doesn't know what to do, that his team is not, coordinated, and I guess that's,
Yeah, but look, I agree with you. I think the crack on his ship is his economic platform. But then again, the Workers' Party's Achilles heel is also the economic platform.
yes.
Because while for every Workers' Party candidate, the Workers' Party was only in power between 2003 and 2010. They forget that the Dilma Rousseff years ever existed. And every time they say, well, look what Lula did, the other guy will say, and then look what Dilma did. And I remember one time there was a congressman who explained why Lula was so popular. Guys from the Social Democracy Party who governed Brazil between 1995 and 2002 complained a lot that they didn't get the credit they deserve for setting up the state for Lula to get there with the federal spending controlled, with the debt controlled, inflation controlled, and so on. And another guy from the Workers' Party said to me at the time, people don't want to know who invented football. They want to know who won the World Cup. To explain that, yeah, it's good. We set up the government, but then Lula came and he did wealth distribution like nobody else had done before. At the same time, people don't want to know why Dilma Rousseff's government failed economically. They just remember that they lost money during Dilma Rousseff's years. So how much Dilma Rousseff's heritage is going to weight against Fernando Haddad right now? And remember, she lost her senatorial race today.
Yeah.
She was bound to win. She finished up, what, fourth?
Fourth.
And the polls for senator, usually they are difficult because there are so many candidates. That's the problem in predicting legislative races. There are so many candidates that you can't have really a nice margin of error. There are so many choices. It's difficult to predict. So I always take those polls with a pinch of salt to have an idea about it. But sure, the new, how do they call it? The new
Middle class.
The new middle class. They saw their lives improving every year, and then in the last 4 years they stopped improving. They blame people for that. Especially if you had to give up some things you had achieved, like getting into a university and so on. It's difficult to win again that trust.
Yeah. So once you've got enough to buy a new car, buy a second car, and 4 years later,
or maybe your car was just a second car.
Yeah. It's definitely very difficult.
Yeah, but I guess the Workers' Party bet is, just bringing Lula to the front and trying to, like you said, forget about Dilma Rousseff's years because they don't want to talk about that because, we know that people blame that period for their economic misfortunes. Yeah. But at the same time, we know that Lula has a lot of potential and, has a lot of electoral potential. The polls show that before he was barred from running. So I guess the Workers' Party is betting a lot of their chips on that as well. Trying to take Dilma out and put just show what Lula did and Haddad with Lula when he was minister.
And pardon my French, but the thing that this election is kind of, for lack of a better word, fucked up, is that both sides are telling their supporters, don't worry, we're not actually going to do what we were promised. Because Fernando Haddad has an economic program which is way to the left, to pander to his base. And then he sends signals to the markets, no, don't worry, it's not going to really be like that once we are in power. And Bolsonaro, his economic program. Exactly. So, best case scenario, they're not going to do what they're promising to do, which is completely anti-democratic.
And PT also has been saying a lot of, well, we're going to do a new constitution, So sometimes it sounded to me like they were trying to boost the rejection to Workers' Party to deliver the bomb on the lap of the other candidate. While doing it.
Look, it's like you said, it's completely like a lot of the things we can criticize on Jair Bolsonaro can also criticize on the Workers' Party, because everybody is frightened that he will toss the Constitution because his people, he has said that, but then the Workers' Party want to change the Constitution. And by the way, we have a podcast about the Constitution, so people should listen to them. Yeah, which just had its 30th anniversary and could not have the 31st anniversary.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think that in reality, what we're going to see if, actually from the second round campaign and a potential presidency, if Fernando Haddad does become the next president, a move towards the centre. I think right now, even from just the early signs we're seeing from like interviews that he's that he's giving, it's all going to be about focus on protecting democracy.
But how much of the move to the center we are seeing in other countries that had the advancement of populism, like we are seeing now in Brazil? We don't see that much.
Well, yeah, but I think as well that when you're talking about the Workers' Party as a political force, they have always had a strong connection to the centre. They're largely a centre-left reformist party.
Their governments were never radical.
No.
That's true. Haddad was the austerity guy when he was the mayor of São Paulo. He curbed down the city's municipal debt.
But with an excited population like we have now, for and against both sides, I don't know how much history applies.
I mean, he said, and he's been meeting with like economists and consultants and all that sort of thing, and he's been giving the indications that we're going to get in, and there's going to be a pension reform. There's going to be a.
But how much has it worked? Because the minute Bolsonaro starts climbing in the polls, then the stock market went crazy. So the very guys that he's trying to pander to and he's trying to calm down, they are already locked in with Bolsonaro.
Right. Yeah.
So the thing for me is maybe he should have done this movement towards the center much sooner. And
he had time to campaign.
But he could have, right?
23 days.
Yeah, I think there's time for that to happen. I mean, it's not final that the financial markets and the industry is down with Bolsonaro all the way. I mean, we know how fast that those people can change if they see an opportunity. So.
Yeah, and also we know how fast that Bolsonaro's financial guru, Paulo Guedes, can also change his mind.
Do you think
even join Haddad's campaigns?
Do you think Haddad announces like tomorrow or I don't know, maybe by Wednesday, who his finance minister would be? Because signals from his campaign was that he would give like a liberal name, a guy that would not.
Maybe.
But that was said he doesn't want to. He would be a
dream guy. Today he said, whoa.
He would be a dream guy for the markets, but he says he doesn't want to. But do you think he must do this kind of gesture to say, don't worry, this is not going to be like Dilma Rousseff's years?
It's easier to lose PT, it's easier to lose the Workers' Party if he does that.
Even against Bolsonaro?
Maybe, I don't know how much they could demobilize the voters.
Well, like if we're talking about the Workers' Party, like actually its mobilized base, like it's been getting demobilized for years and years and years, and even now, like it's true, it's only going to continue. This now isn't a vote for the Workers' Party. If Fernandez becomes president, it's not going to be a vote for the Workers' Party. It's going to be a vote against Bolsonaro and against this idea of fascism and a defense of democracy. Like their base is just getting even more demobilized.
What makes me curious about 3 weeks from now is today we got 99% of how do you call it, spawn votes.
Yeah,
and 20% of no
Abstentions.
abstentions.
Yeah.
And those 20% have also the dead people and the people who went away and so on. I'm curious to see what will happen in the second round. How much those two candidates will attract no voting.
Stakes will be high.
How much does the level of spoiled votes, how much does that relate to previous elections? It's quite low.
It's smaller than 2014 and bigger than 2006 and 2010.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, the thing is, after electronic voting was implemented, the rate of spoiled ballots went down by half.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
In 1998, it was 18.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's why the elections, both in '94 and '98, finished in the first round. The more spoiled votes you have, the fewer votes you need to win.
Yeah.
And
You could still vote for an elephant or something.
Right, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more errors that you can make on paper ballots.
And
I've seen a couple of them.
you want a weird rule in Brazil's electoral system? So Bolsonaro is much better. His health is much improved from the stabbing he suffered in September 6th. But if he were to die, he wouldn't be replaced by his VP nominee. Actually, the third guy, so Ciro Gomes, would qualify for the second round. Can you imagine the political turmoil that it would happen if something that, it's not probable Bolsonaro's health is improving, but he will have to undergo a new surgery. That's for sure. So it's a pretty weird world that we have had.
Doesn't make any sense.
Not at all.
We need to be careful because from what I've seen over the past week, the Ciro Gomes army on social media is quite they're quite an angry bunch, so you don't want to give them too many ideas. They're very
Fierce.
very fierce. Yeah, who knows what they can be capable of.
Fiercer than the Workers' Party army?
Well, I think they're fiercer because they're newer, like they found
New
themselves.
Christians are the most prevalent.
Exactly.
Numbers show that they have a lot more interactions the last few days of the Workers' Party. It was by a long shot.
No, interactions, yeah. But that's enthusiasm, that's not fierceness, right?
Yeah. Well, we're not suggesting that Ciro Gomes supporters are going to kill Jair Bolsonaro. Let's make that very clear.
We're not encouraging them.
No, God, no.
We are getting to the end of this broadcast, almost 1 hour now. So I would like to ask you guys for one small projection, one prediction, not the results, not calling the results, but something that a move that one of the candidates is going to do. Like, what do you think, for instance, Fernando Haddad's first strategy will be like?
I think you're pretty spot on in terms of he will try to find his finance minister as soon as possible and go after all of these left and centre-left candidates to try and get some sort of alliance together as soon as possible. But as I say, it's going to be all about democracy and not about so much the PP's legacy, like the Workers' Party legacy. It's all going to be, this guy wants to get rid of democracy, we want to preserve democracy. So I think he'll try and get as big of a kind of allied front as possible.
Good versus evil.
Yeah.
What side do you think Alckmin goes?
Yeah, that would be my question to you, actually.
Yeah, Alckmin personally, I think he remains independent. I don't think he definitely goes to Bolsonaro either.
I think
What we want to know is what the polls are going to
I think the Social Democratic Party is going to go neutral in the second round.
Which in this kind of election is a coward stance.
Yeah.
I mean, you choose a side.
Yeah.
But,
It's a very polarized election.
especially for a party that has shrunk.
Yeah.
Every election cycle, they're losing supporters, they're losing big-time politicians. So to stay neutral, it's just certified their death.
Yeah.
Especially if you have like the biggest name right now, which is João, who's running for governor here, has already all but declared his support to Jair Bolsonaro, saying that if he gets elected, the state police in São Paulo will shoot to kill, because Bolsonaro before he said that policemen who kill people must be decorated, not punished. So maybe there's also this shift. The Social Democracy Party is dying the way we know it, and the new, more hardcore, right-wing version is...
But something curious is happening for what I see in the States with the Social Democracy. They are kind of, when Social Democracy Party arose in 1988, 12 years ago, before the election, for the Constitution, they were like the left wing of PMDB, of the democratic movement of Brazil. And they split. They formed this new party, which was a more socially minded one. And the democratic movement became a kind of party that supports winners in elections, but never has a national relevance. It became a party with regional relevance. And the social democracy is now becoming what the democratic movement was until recently. They are
Democrats as well, right?
Democrats as well, yeah. Yeah.
Which is a right-wing party that is strong in the Northeast, but then nationally...
I think actually that's what we might see. We might see the shift from the kind of the big centre-right force being the Social Democracy Party, moving to Democrats. I think that's where we're going to see those... well, there's a group within the Social Democracy Party, kind of younger members, who call them the cabeças pretas, who are attempting to kind of to declare their support for Bolsonaro and the party that want them to. I can easily see those guys leaving the party.
Yeah, that's what they had in the Social Democracy government.
Yeah, and Democrats have. It looks like they'll have a pretty good amount of congressmen in the lower house and the Senate, and they won the governorship of Goiás as well. Exactly. And yeah, I think that's maybe where the future of the centre right is.
By the way, the guy who won in Goiás, Ronaldo Caiado, I remember I listened to a podcast about the beginning of the Brazilian Republic, and there was a correspondence between guys from the Fernando Henrique Cardoso's family saying that, well, the Republic, which started in 1889, didn't change much. In Goiás, the Caiados still rule the show, run the show, so it's been for over 150 years, the same family running politics in Goiás. Diogo, do you have a prediction for the second round? What should we expect?
I don't have a prediction, but I think that if Fernando Haddad and the Workers' Party want to be competitive in the second round, they're going to have to try to hack communications. Bolsonaro is very skilled. I mean, his base is very skilled in mobilizing people through social media, through messaging apps, and we know that the Workers' Party is not as good as they are at that. And I think I would think that's going to be one of the main focus now. Try to, tailor the messages in order to win new voters, to try to win the people who didn't vote for either of them in the first round, and I think that's going to be a big deal in the second round, apart from, economy and the debates and everything else. I think hacking the communications, all the areas, not only on social media and WhatsApp and whatever.
But there's a big difference in the style of online communication of the Workers' Party and the Bolsonaro group.
Exactly, that's what we're going to try to keep up with.
Yeah, and
why would they copy Bolsonaro more?
I would think so. Not copy the fake news that they
no, but copy the style.
Yeah, the style. Direct messages and small videos.
There's probably a lot of fake news also.
Yeah. I'm not saying that.
Exactly.
I'm not saying everyone is innocent. I'm just saying that.
And the Workers' Party has a history of giving shots below the waistline as well. Which surprised me is how contained they seem to be this time comparing to, because let's remember, in 2010 they paid journalists to do like an illegal dossier against their adversary, José Serra at the time, so it's not a pure party in the way they campaign. Maybe the hardcore way of doing politics that we have known from the Workers' Party is going to show up.
Maybe this kind of politics that we're seeing not only in Brazil but in Britain, and the United States, and many other countries, spreading deliberate fake news, not only with a campaign in mind, but just try to assassinate characters.
Cultural war.
Yeah, cultural war, ideological war. This is something new for us as well. I mean, we've seen that. Not on the scale.
We must remember what was done to Marina Silva last night.
No, but what I'm saying, but this was made, by the official campaign. Now what we're seeing is something that is done on the fringes. Being done on the fringes. It's not doing on. They're not doing that on TV. We have no control on the messages. We don't know what. I mean, you can't, refute whatever they're saying because you don't really know.
They don't have contact with.
Exactly.
Because they're on the social level. So.
I mean, I'm not saying the strategy is new. I'm saying that the way that these contents are being spread.
The CCTV side of it.
Yeah, it's something quite new for us in this electoral campaigns, at least.
My prediction is that Jair Bolsonaro is going to try to attach the gay kit, the quote-unquote gay kit, on Jair Bolsonaro, on Fernando Haddad, every single day. And I believe that if he does go to debates, I don't care if the question is public health care, if it's security, he's going to find a way to put gay kit, because that rings a bell for a lot of Brazilian families, people who have kids in their school, and Brazil is a homophobic country. Let's not forget that one LGBT person is killed in Brazil every day. And people don't see themselves as LGBT. They say, well, as long as my kid is not an LGBT person, I don't care. And they think that that's not being homophobic, but that's the country we have right now. That's the way the average guy thinks here. So I think he's going to try to say, Fernando Haddad is the gay kid candidate, I'm the pro-family candidate. And I believe that economic issues, people are not caring about. People are caring about moral stuff. They have connected the Workers' Party to corruption, like Brazil was Sweden until Lula took office. And we don't see that before Lula. We can love him, we can hate him, but one thing we have to recognize is that the federal police and federal prosecutors were never as independent as they were in the Workers' Party's years. Let's remember, for Fernando Henrique Cardoso, which is a presidency that has tons of merits, the prosecutor general was the cousin of the vice president. So how independent we can be. So my prediction is Fernando Haddad is going to be labeled the gay kid guy every single day, and that's why I believe Bolsonaro is the candidate to beat. And I really see very slim chances for Fernando Haddad at this point.
Yeah. The Workers' Party has a difficulty dealing with allies. Even with, I don't know how much of the difficulty will show up in this time.
Yeah. Especially they never had allies. They always have people in the supporting cast, very small in the picture.
They still behave as if the election was theirs to lose.
Yeah. I think that's it for this broadcast, but I invite people who will watch this. We're going to publish it on YouTube, and on Tuesday we have the Explaining Brazil podcast. Me, Diogo, and Euan are going to be in the studio talking in more detail about the results. We also invite you to go to Brazilian.report. We have new content every day. Politics, economics, social issues. This week, I think politics is going to monopolize our articles, but please Feel free to send us questions, suggestions, criticism. Everything is welcome. Thank you very much, and thank you guys for being a part of this broadcast.
Thank you.
Good evening.